Is the funeral over? Hurry back home, Lori's urgent voice pierced through the somber air of the cemetery. Today marked Alyssa's birthday party, a day of celebration juxtaposed against the recent loss of Shell, my beloved daughter who departed this world at the tender age of 5. My mother-in-law's call came as a stark reminder of life's relentless march forward, even in the face of heart-wrenching grief. She hadn't attended her own granddaughter's funeral. Instead, her focus was on Alyssa's birthday festivities. The request bewildered me, stirring a mixture of anger and sorrow within. I couldn't help but wonder if grief had clouded Lori's judgment. How could she expect me to simply transition from bidding farewell to my precious Shell to attending a birthday party? The raw emotion spurred me to action, prompting a phone call that would hopefully provide some solace. My name is Rel, a 33-year-old housewife. My husband Milo, just 2 years my senior, and I were introduced through mutual friends 6 years ago. Our union blessed us with a daughter, Shelley, who brought immeasurable joy into our lives. But fate dealt her a cruel hand. Shelley's health began to decline 2 years ago. Initially, it seemed like a series of minor illnesses, fevers, colds, but then came the swelling in her neck. Concerned, we sought medical help, only to be met with ominous words. You need to get tested at a larger hospital immediately. That's what the doctor told me, I whispered, the words heavy with disbelief as they echoed in the sterile hospital room. After enduring a battery of tests at the general hospital and an agonizing wait, the diagnosis was delivered like a crushing blow. Malignant lymphoma, a cruel manifestation of childhood cancer. My world plunged into darkness as I pleaded desperately with the doctor, clinging to the hope that it was all a horrible mistake. This can't be true, can it? I implored, my voice choked with tears. Despite the presence of medical professionals surrounding me, I felt utterly alone as waves of grief washed over me. The need for immediate hospitalization was non-negotiable, and though we rushed home to gather essentials, my tears seemed unending. Milo, my rock in this storm of uncertainty, shed silent tears of his own yet remained steadfast in his encouragement. We have to be strong. Shelley will beat this, he urged, his voice a beacon of unwavering determination. With trembling hands, I signed consent forms for procedures I could scarcely comprehend, my mind reeling from the weight of the decisions before me. The arduous journey of treatment lay ahead, a path fraught with IV trips, blood draws, transfusions, and the brutal onslaught of chemotherapy. In the face of this relentless onslaught, I made the heart-wrenching decision to leave my part-time job behind, dedicating every moment to Shelley's side in the hospital. Milo, though tethered to his own obligations, made every effort to support us, his visits a brief respite from the harsh reality of our circumstances. You need to take care of yourself too, Michelle, he insisted, his concern a reminder of the delicate balance between strength and vulnerability in the face of adversity. As Milo stepped up to handle the hospital visits, I took on the responsibilities at home or stole moments to rest, preserving what little strength I had left. In those initial days within the sterile hospital walls, Shelley's tears were a constant companion, her small frame racked with the unfamiliarity of her surroundings. Yet with time, she acclimated to the rhythm of hospital life, her cries gradually diminishing. The nurses marveled at her resilience, showering her with praise as she endured injections without a single whimper. In those moments, I too found solace in their accolades. Despite the toll chemotherapy exacted on her fragile body, manifesting in the loss of her hair and a pervasive sense of weakness, Shelley remained remarkably stoic, her infectious smile a beacon of hope amidst the darkness. Her love for drawing became a source of joy for us all, her sketches capturing moments of fleeting happiness amid the sterile hospital environment. One day, as Milo and I stood at her bedside, Shelley proudly presented a drawing from her sketchbook, an ode to our family unit. It's beautiful, Shelley, we praise, our hearts swelling with pride at her talent and resilience. Her chatter, a constant stream of energy, infused our weary spirits with renewed strength. However, there were moments of setback. During periods of low white blood cell counts, she was confined to the isolation of a sterile room, her fragile immune system requiring utmost protection. Yet, as her health gradually improved, we were granted the precious gift of a few days at home. I want to go to preschool, Shelley declared eagerly upon returning home, her excitement palpable. Witnessing her frolic with friends, her laughter echoing through the halls, filled our hearts with boundless joy. Yet, amidst the moments of respite, reminders of her illness lingered. During a visit from my mother, as Shelley reveled in the comfort of her grandmother's embrace, her radiant energy faltered, replaced by a look of discomfort. "Mom, it smells like home," she remarked, her voice trailing off as a sudden onset of pain gripped her small frame. "Let me check, sweetheart. Oh, you're running a slight fever. Wait here. I'll make some soup," I instructed Shelley gently, tucking her into bed before hastily attending to the remaining chores around the house. The comforting aroma of simmering soup filled the kitchen as I busied myself, striving to maintain some semblance of normalcy amidst the chaos of our lives. Just as I was settling into the rhythm of my tasks, the doorbell shattered the tranquility of the moment. Peering at the monitor, my heart sank at the sight of Lori's figure on the doorstep. A pang of regret surged within me for not simply ignoring the intrusion. "Lori, what brings you here?" I managed to muster a polite greeting, though inwardly, I braced myself for the inevitable confrontation. "Do I need a reason to visit my son's house?" Her retort carried a sharp edge, but I bit back the urge to respond with a sharp retort that danced on the tip of my tongue. Instead, I maintained a stoic silence, unwilling to engage in the futile exchange of barbs. In any other circumstance, a visit from a caring mother-in-law might have been a welcome gesture. However, Lori was anything but kind. From the outset of our marriage, she had made it her mission to belittle and berate me at every turn. Whether it was my lack of higher education or superficial critiques about my appearance, her words cut deep, leaving scars that lingered long after she had departed. During the brief respite provided by my father-in-law's presence, Lori's tirades were somewhat tempered, but with his passing, her attacks escalated, leaving me to weather the storm alone. From petty acts of sabotage to relentless comparisons with her beloved daughter, Eliza, Lori's hostility knew no bounds. "Eliza has a son, Jace, in second grade," she would often boast, the disparity in her treatment of our children a stark reminder of her favoritism. As we gathered for holiday celebrations, the contrast in Lori's demeanor towards Jace and Shelley was glaringly evident, further fueling the resentment that simmered beneath the surface. Despite being her own granddaughter, it seemed that Lori couldn't muster an ounce of affection for Shelley, all because of her disdain for me, her daughter-in-law. As I stirred the soup, lost in my thoughts, Lori barged in uninvited from next door with an air of self-importance. "Shelley has a fever," she announced abruptly, her intrusion disrupting the peace of the moment. I couldn't help but silently wish she would just leave if she had nothing constructive to contribute. Yet her unwelcome presence lingered, casting a shadow over the already tense atmosphere. "She's quite frail, isn't she? I wonder where she gets it from. Certainly not our family. Your father had cancer, didn't he?" Lori's words, laced with thinly veiled contempt, cut through the air like a knife. I bristled at the implication, my patience wearing thin. "Yes, Lori. I've explained this to you numerous times. Shelley's illness isn't hereditary," I responded tersely, my frustration bubbling to the surface. My father's battle with cancer during my high school years was a painful memory, but malignant lymphoma, Shelley's diagnosis, wasn't genetically linked, except in specific virus-related instances. Exasperated, I couldn't help but wonder if Lori's repeated ignorance stemmed from senility or simply a stubborn refusal to acknowledge the truth. With a dismissive glance in Shelley's direction, she hurled her venomous remarks before finally taking her leave, leaving a bitter taste in her wake. As the door closed behind her, I turned my attention to Shelley, her innocent face marred by the lingering toxicity of Lori's presence. With a heavy heart, I muttered a few sarcastic comments of my own before retreating from the room. What was the purpose of her visit? I wondered bitterly. Just boredom, perhaps. For a year, Shelley's life was a delicate balance between the confines of the clean room and fleeting moments of respite at home. As the months passed and her blood counts gradually improved, we dared to hope that the worst was behind us. Finally, after a year and a half of relentless treatment, Shelley completed her regimen, and we rejoiced at the prospect of bringing her home for good. With her health on the upswing, Shelley eagerly returned to preschool, her infectious energy lighting up every room she entered. We celebrated this newfound freedom with a family trip to the aquarium, marveling at her boundless enthusiasm as she explored the wonders of the underwater world. Despite the challenges we had faced, I held on to the belief that Shelley would overcome it all. But as she turned 5, our worst nightmares materialized. A relapse. The ensuing months were a blur of agonizing treatments, spinal injections, radiation therapy, and relentless battles against pneumonia and high fevers. Desperate to spare her from further suffering, I underwent a bone marrow transplant, clinging to the hope that it would be enough to save her. But fate had other plans. Despite my best efforts, my body's betrayal dashed any hope of a reprieve for Shelley. With heavy hearts, we faced the grim reality of the doctor's prognosis. There was nothing more to be done. Further treatment would only prolong her suffering. It was a devastating verdict, a stark reminder of the limited time we had left. In the face of such adversity, we made a solemn decision to bring Shelley home, determined to fill her remaining days with love and laughter. Every moment became precious as we embarked on a journey to fulfill her every wish. From preschool sports days to playful outings, we savored each fleeting moment, cherishing the radiant joy that Shelley brought to everyone she encountered. And amidst it all, my mother's unwavering presence provided a source of comfort and solace, a reminder that we were not alone in our grief. I had made a vow to myself never to shed tears in front of Shelley, but sometimes the weight of our reality proved too heavy to bear, and despite my efforts, tears would slip past my resolve. "Mom, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" Shelley's concern for me, even in the midst of her own suffering, never failed to touch my heart. I clung to the hope that this period of happiness would stretch into eternity, praying fervently for a miracle to intervene and spare us from the inevitable. Yet, despite our prayers, the answer remained elusive. Despite her outward appearance of health, the truth lay in the worsening results of her blood tests, a relentless reminder of the cruel reality we faced. As Shelley's condition continued to deteriorate, her once lively spirit confined to the prison of her own frailty, I found solace in the belief that her 6th birthday was within reach, a beacon of hope in the darkness that threatened to consume us. But fate had other plans. Like sand slipping through our fingers, Shelley's grasp on life grew increasingly tenuous, her strength waning with each passing day. As her breaths grew labored and her struggle became more pronounced, the doctor's somber words hung heavy in the air, a harbinger of the inevitable. "Prepare yourselves," they cautioned. Their words a cruel echo of the anguish that reverberated within my own heart. In that moment of devastating clarity, I found myself unable to hold back the flood of tears that threatened to consume me. In a haze of grief and disbelief, I turned to Shelley, my voice trembling as I struggled to find the words to convey the unbearable truth that lay before us. "I love you, and Shelley, I love you too." Shelley's words, though labored, carried a weight of love that transcended her weakened state. As the early hours of dawn approached, the urgency of the situation intensified, and the doctor's frantic efforts to revive her filled the room with a sense of desperation. Shelley, in her final moments, clung to consciousness, her voice a fragile whisper echoing the depths of her heart. With every ounce of strength she could muster, she uttered her last words, a testament to the unwavering bond that united our family in love. Mile and I, our hearts heavy with sorrow, cradled her fragile form in our arms, willing her to find peace in the embrace of sleep one final time. But despite her valiant struggle, Shelley slipped away from us, leaving behind an unfillable void in our lives. "Shelley, please, wake up," I pleaded, my voice choked with grief, as her hand grew cold in mine, a silent testament to the cruel reality of our loss. Yet even in the midst of our anguish, the world continued to turn, and the relentless tide of funeral arrangements and preparations pulled me away from the luxury of mourning. As we navigated the somber halls of the funeral home, my heart heavy with sorrow, Lori's callous disregard for the gravity of the moment pierced through the haze of my grief. "You're not coming," I retorted, my patience worn thin by her callous indifference. But her response, laden with self-righteousness, only fueled my anger further. Struggling to contain my rising frustration, I rejected her hollow demands and, in a moment of clarity, severed ties with her toxic presence. With Lori's number blocked and my resolve strengthened, I reached out to someone who offered solace amidst the storm of emotions threatening to engulf me. The somber atmosphere of Shelley's funeral was a testament to the impact she had on the lives of those around her. Doctors who had fought tirelessly for her, friends from preschool, and our own loved ones all gathered to bid her a final farewell. Tears flowed freely as memories of Shelley filled the air, a poignant reminder of the love she had inspired in so many. In a gesture of love and remembrance, Shelley's coffin was adorned with her favorite sunflowers, a vibrant tribute to her spirit. Her friends, with hearts heavy with grief, placed heartfelt letters inside, a testament to the profound impact she had on their lives. Through it all, Milo stood as a pillar of strength, his quiet dignity a beacon of resilience for our grieving family. Hours later, as Milo and I stood before his parents' house, the weight of our loss hung heavy in the air. Lori's desperate plea for help fell on deaf ears as we entered, her presence a stark reminder of the rift that had torn our family apart. In the living room, Eliza and her family, along with a few relatives, awaited us, their expressions a mix of sorrow and disbelief. "I'm so sorry, Rel. We had no idea today was Shell's funeral." Alyssa's words carried a sincerity that touched my heart, a stark contrast to the callous indifference of Lori's actions. In the aftermath of the funeral, I had reached out to Eliza, seeking solace in the bond we shared. Despite the strains of Lori's toxicity, Eliza had always been a source of comfort and support. Her genuine concern for Shelley a testament to the depth of our relationship. As sisters in all but blood, our connection remained unbreakable, even amidst the turmoil that surrounded us. Alyssa's return from abroad had coincided with her birthday, a serendipitous overlap that had tragically coincided with Shelley's funeral. In our haste and grief, we had entrusted Lori with the task of communicating with her side of the family, only to be met with betrayal and negligence. Alyssa's shock at Lori's absence from the funeral served as a sobering reminder of the fractures within our family that had been laid bare by Shelley's untimely passing. Upon our return home, Alyssa reached out to me, only to discover that Shelley's burial had already taken place. Nonetheless, they waited patiently for our arrival, their presence a source of comfort amidst the somber atmosphere that permeated our home. Shelley's absence weighed heavily upon us all, her memory a haunting presence in every corner of the room. As we mourned our loss, Lori's callous words cut through the silence like a knife. "You can always have another child," she uttered callously, her lack of empathy sending shockwaves through the room. In a moment of righteous fury, Eliza seized the cake meant for her birthday celebration and hurled it at Lori, her action a visceral expression of her disgust at Lori's heartless demeanor. With steely determination, Eliza led Lori to the shower room, her intentions clear as she doused her with water, washing away the toxicity that tainted her spirit. Amidst the chaos, I weakly explained Lori's motives, her insistence on rushing me back for Eliza's birthday party preparations, a stark reminder of her misplaced priorities. The relatives, appalled by Lori's behavior, voiced their disdain for her callousness. Returning from the shower room, Lori stood before us, her drenched appearance a physical manifestation of the contempt that surrounded her. "But it's Eliza's birthday party," Lori attempted to justify herself, her feeble excuse met with incredulity and anger. "Your birthday party?" Alyssa's voice dripped with scorn. "How dare you call Rel back for such trivial matters? If Shelley meant so little to you, how could you disregard Milo's grief over her loss? Why didn't you attend your own granddaughter's funeral?" Unable to conjure a valid response, Lori's excuses fell silent, her guilt laid bare for all to see. In a moment of raw honesty, Chase, Alyssa's son, broke the tense silence that enveloped us all. "Grandma, you don't really love your grandchildren, do you?" His soft words reverberated through the room, cutting through the facade of familial unity with a piercing clarity. Lori's feeble attempt to reassure him fell flat. her words betraying the stark truth that lay beneath her carefully crafted facade. "That's not true. I love you, Jate. You're healthy and Alyssa's child," she stammered, her desperation palpable in the face of Jace's innocent inquiry. But her feeble excuse only served to stoke the flames of anger that had long simmered within Milo. "So Shelley, my child, wasn't loved because she was ill, and your daughter-in-law's daughter." His voice trembled with emotion, the weight of his grief finally finding release in a torrent of righteous indignation. The condemnation of Laurie's actions came not only from Milo, but from her own family as well. "She's always been crazy," her brother remarked bitterly, recounting past grievances that painted a damning portrait of Laurie's character. As the truth of Laurie's betrayal came to light, the rift between us widened, the bonds of family strained beyond repair. With heavy hearts, we bid farewell to those who had once been a part of our lives, their departure leaving a void that echoed with the pain of betrayal. "We're leaving," Milo announced, his voice heavy with resignation. "Let's talk again some other time." We exchanged hugs with those who remained, their presence a bittersweet reminder of the ties that had been severed by Laurie's actions. But even as we prepared to depart, Laurie's voice rang out once more, her words laden with accusation and regret. "Wait, Milo," she pleaded, her desperation evident in the trembling of her voice. "Is that why you didn't care for Shelley, my child?" "It's not like that, Milo, you know." Laurie's voice quivered with sadness, her words a feeble attempt to justify her actions. "You didn't study properly, like Eliza. You didn't listen, so you only care about those who do as you want, huh?" Milo's expression remained somber, his disappointment evident in his eyes. As I handed Laurie something beside him, a pang of sorrow gripped my heart. It was a drawing of Laurie, meticulously crafted by Shelley's tiny hands. In the picture, Laurie was depicted with a radiant smile adorning her face. "Despite everything, even though you didn't dote on Shell, she admired you," I spoke softly, the weight of my words heavy with emotion. "I hated you and never saw a smile from you, but maybe Shelley saw you smiling like this." Shell was a pure and kind child. Even during her treatment, she was more concerned about me. Perhaps in her eyes, she saw a kind Laurie. Laurie's tears flowed freely for the first time, her fingers trembling as she clutched the drawing close to her chest. But amidst the flood of emotions, it was painfully clear that the damage had already been done. "We're also leaving. I won't ever see Mom again." Alyssa's words hung heavy in the air, her resolve unyielding as she turned her back on the woman who had betrayed us all. "Wait, don't leave too." Laurie's desperate plea fell on deaf ears as we, united in our grief, departed from the in-laws' house, leaving behind the shattered remnants of what was once a family. In the days that followed, my uncle-in-law's family visited us, their presence a balm to our wounded spirits. Amidst prayers offered over Shelley's photo, they extended their heartfelt apologies for Laurie's behavior. Yet, even as Laurie appeared remorseful, clutching onto Shelley's drawing with trembling hands, the damage she had wrought could not be undone. Laurie had always been troublesome. "It's unlikely she'll change now." My aunt-in-law's words held a note of resignation, a testament to the deep-seated flaws that had long plagued Laurie's character. In the wake of this tragic incident, other relatives followed suit, cutting ties with Laurie in a collective act of solidarity. Though her loneliness may be self-inflicted, there was little room for sympathy. Her long history of erratic behavior had left scars too deep to heal, and as she faced the consequences of her actions, she would be forced to confront the weight of her regrets alone. In the aftermath of the funeral, as the whirlwind of busy days and necessary procedures subsided, the full weight of Shelley's loss crashed down upon me like a tidal wave. In the depths of my grief, I found myself engulfed by a sense of overwhelming despair, my vision clouded by tears that seemed to never cease. Milo's concern for my well-being grew with each passing day, prompting my mother to stay with us for a while, offering her comfort and support during my darkest hours. Haunted by the relentless question of whether I could have done more to save Shelley, I found myself teetering on the brink of madness, consumed by guilt and regret. But amidst the suffocating darkness that threatened to engulf me, I couldn't bring myself to entertain thoughts of ending my own life. For Shelley had fought with such tenacity until the very end, her spirit refusing to surrender to the cruel hand fate had dealt her. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, a glimmer of hope began to flicker within me once more. Finding solace in the shared experiences of other parents who had suffered similar losses, I sought refuge in the embrace of a support group where tears were shed and stories shared, offering a semblance of comfort in our collective grief. Reconnecting with Eliza and engaging in heartfelt conversations with her served as a source of solace, a reminder that I was not alone in my pain. And then, amidst the darkness, a beacon of light emerged in the form of a furry companion. Milo and I welcomed the puppy into our home, its boundless energy and unwavering affection serving as a gentle reminder of the love and joy that Shelley had brought into our lives. In the wag of its tail and the sparkle in its eyes, I saw echoes of our bright child, Shelley, her spirit living on in the playful antics of our new furry friend. Do you draw in heaven, chatter endlessly, and smile with that infectious joy of yours? I whispered into the ether, my words a silent prayer carried on the wings of hope. Someday we'll be together again, but until then, wait for me. And if by some miracle our paths cross once more, I long to see your radiant smile lighting up the heavens above. As Shelley's mother, I made a solemn vow to honor her memory by living a life filled with purpose and meaning, a life that she would be proud of. And though the pain of her absence may never fully subside, I found solace in the knowledge that her spirit would forever guide me on this journey called life.